top door slammers are the fastest cars on the planet with doors.
The sprung car with a big supercharger, centre mounted, that hangs out through the bonnet. Big sticky rear tyres on the rear. They make a heap of horsepower, and being sprung suspension are really hard to drive at the best of times.
Both doors have to function to get in and out the car, as opposed to, the funny car bodies.
It has a chrome molly chassis, purpose built for drag racing. 1,225 kilos is the minimum weight.
It runs on alcohol. We use about 34 litres in a pass.
The air and fuel goes into this, and we put it into that supercharger, and that compresses the air and pumps it into that Hemi V8 engine.
We're governed by the amount of speed we can turn the supercharger, and that can only be 108% overdrive. So if the motor does 10,000 revs, the supercharger does 21,000 revs.
When it starts and spins, this magneto is a 44 amp magneto. So 44 amps is enormous, the spark that comes out of the end of these spark plugs, because you're putting so much fuel in. This is the fuel pump, and you can see here the fuel pipe is this big. It would wash out a normal spark on the spark plug, it would just kill it.
Magic happens inside the engine. 3,000 horsepower is generated inside and is transmitted through, in this case, it's transmitted through a clutch. Same as a road car, into a gearbox. We run a 3-speed transmission. A little bit less than a road car, but that's what we need to get down the track.
The tuning of these cars, the trick is the clutch setting. A lot of the cars here in our class have automatics, so that takes that away and it makes it a little easier for them.
So our particular race car, this is an aluminium bell housing in here, and inside of there is a billet aluminium lock-up converter. From there it goes through to a 5-speed Liberty that we run. A lot of the other guys run a 3-speed, B&J or Elenco. So this one here has no clutch pack, so it's got 0 slip, and therefore we're putting every part again of that horsepower to the rear of the tyres. This gearbox also with 5 gears, it allows the motor to stay at a higher RPM, then keeps the supercharger revving higher, and then that makes more horsepower, and that's the way we try and make these cars go.
They're pretty basic inside. We don't have air conditioning or power steering. We have a Motec dash, a gear shift button so we can select gears. I have a handbrake, accelerator pedal, forward and reverse gear stick, fuel shut off, so we can shut the fuel off from the fuel pump to the engine. We have a parachute lever that we pull as we approach the finish line to help slow the car down when it lets twin parachutes out.
They never get boring to drive, these cars. They're a handful at the best of times.
It's something that you can't describe unless you've been in it. It's just an unbelievable feeling.
There's never a dull moment. They're not a lounge chair to drive down the track. You physically steer one of these cars the whole way down the track.
When you're sitting in a top door slammer, once that big supercharger's in the way, you don't have much vision. All we have is this 30 centimetre by 30 centimetre little window here to look out of. And when these cars are accelerating that fast, it gets a bit blurry when you're going down the track. So sometimes it's hard to see. There's nothing I'd rather be racing than a top door slammer. And what's better than one door slammer is 2 door slammers.